Welcome everyone to another episode of the Shade of Shit Talking Podcast. I'm your host TK, and as always, I thank you guys for tuning in. Now, this episode will be basically a further continuance of things that I've talked about before. It just digs deeper into what we have been talking about as far as the R. Kelly trials and Harvey Weinstein and all of those situations, unfortunate situations that involve sexual assault, sexual abuse, rape, and things of that nature. So I decided, instead of just focusing on a singular case or a singular situation, I felt that it's needed to talk about the culture that we're living in right now, the rape culture that we as a society are living in, that we as a society have seemingly become desensitized towards, and it is something that we really and truly need to address as a whole. Now, rape culture, it involves everyone. It's not just a white problem, black problem, Mexican, whatever. It's a human problem, period. But I would be lying if I said it wasn't problematic for our community. And I think as a black man, it is something that myself and other black men have to address head on and take the challenge of being better men and raising better men and teaching boys to be better men in order to combat this culture. So before we just dive off into it, I guess I should give you what my definition of rape culture is. I feel that rape culture it's an environment. It is an environment in which rape is prevalent, which sexual assaults are prevalent, an environment in which violence that is sexual in nature is normalized, and it is more often than not, it is excused, whether it's through the media, whether it's through pop culture, whether it's through locker room talk, whether it's what you see around you at school, at work, so on and so forth. And this culture, this rape culture, is something that I feel is perpetuated through various means. It can be through the use of misogynistic language. It can be through the objectification of a woman's body. It can be through glamorizing sexual violence. And when you mix all of this stuff together, you get one big ass gumbo of a society that really and truly disregards the rights and safety of women. All women. Black women, young and old. I talked about being desensitized and being dehumanized a couple of weeks ago on the Centoya Brown clemency episode, where I talked about young black women, young black girls, and what they face in the face of rape and sexual assault, and how they are viewed as these hypersexual beings, and they don't get the benefit of the doubt, or they are dehumanized and not respected. And this whole culture, its reach is far reaching. I mean, it touches so many aspects of human life that it's ridiculous. So now that I have given you what my definition is, I can give you some of the things that I feel are prime examples of rape culture. And the first thing that I want to talk about as an example, it really burns me up to my core. And I have went back and forth with folks for these last few weeks after this, Surviving R thing came out. And the one thing that I saw that was just heartbreaking to me was the sheer volume of victim blaming and victim shaming. Like I hate to hear somebody say something, to the effect of she asked for it when it comes to a rape victim, a sexual assault victim, somebody who's sexually harassed or groped or grabbed against their will. I hate to hear somebody say she asked for it. Like, I was talking to somebody the other day, and we was talking about this whole thing, and they brought up Cardi B and the City Girls twerk video. And my reply to them was, so what? So damn what? Like, I don't care how much a woman is twerking and shaking her ass and doing whatever she want to do. I don't care about what she has on, or rather the lack of what she has on. It doesn't matter. That still gives you absolutely no right to grab this woman, touch this woman, rape this woman, or sexually assault this woman, harass this woman, do anything that is wrong, anything that is against her will. It doesn't matter. I don't care what it is. So that falls on deaf ears with me. Like, that is a really quick way for us to just not be friends and not fuck around with each other. Like, when you refuse to look at it, and you seen the, especially with R, and even with this situation with Chris, which he didn't face any charges, or charges were dropped, or whatever it was, but you saw, well, he got too much money to be doing that. He didn't do that. He got too much money. Or, his music or whatever. It's got to be the woman's fault. She brought it on herself. And I just don't see how that happens. And, like what goes with the victim shaming, is the victim blaming hand in hand. And I think some people just they blame a victim as a means of disassociating themselves or distancing themselves from that occurrence. Like, I'm not like her. I'm not like him. Because I would never do what she did. I would never dress how she dressed. So that would never happen to me. Like, how insane is that way of thinking? You don't have to be dressed a certain way to get sexually assaulted or raped or anything like that. You don't. And it's the whole situation is just out of control. Really out of control. But until we as a community, as a people, really stand up and take accountability for ourselves and our actions and not tolerate the shit from others, we'll continue to have this problem. Now, some of the other things that falls into play with rape culture, I can be a man and sit here and tell you that coming up, I have been responsible for a lot of the, well, I wouldn't say a lot, but some things that is involved in the entire rape culture. Like thinking, boys will be boys, which is, that's what the whole Gillette commercial is about right now. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But homophobia, if it's something you don't know about and it's something you grow up around hearing people call people fags and sissies and all of that, it becomes the norm to you. But once you get older and you grow and you understand, you change. Catcalling, I've done that. Locker room talk, I've done that. But it's not something that I can sit here and say, well, hey, I'm proud of it, but I can't sit here and lie to you and say I was ashamed, because I was young. I was doing whatever it was I wanted to do. When you're young and don't know any better, you do things. But again, you grow and you learn. And I know for me, having children, having daughters, that changes a lot of ways that you approach situations and you look at situations and think. Like I want to be the type of man, type of guy, type of person or what have you, that if somebody said, hey TK, hey Tires, if your daughter married somebody just like you, how would that make you feel? And I can honestly look at you in your face and tell you, I feel great about that. Now, me 20 years ago, hell no. 15 years ago, hell no. But these last 10, 12 or what have you, oh yeah. You grow, you mature, you learn. So, I had made a post and I put this chart up, like the food pyramid, and it talks about, it shows the different stages of rape culture, to where you have the what's considered mild and tame stuff at the bottom, which and again it's all bad. If you go to Black with No Chaser on Facebook, you can actually see the picture itself of the thing that I posted. But it starts off what people think is innocent enough, locker room banner, sexist attitudes, jokes about rape, unwanted sexual touches. And I know plenty of women who've been in nightclubs and night spots, and you standing there minding your business and somebody just grab your ass or do the old trying to get through the crowd thing and, rub up against you, things like that. We've seen women just get grabbed and surrounded and all that shit, man. And it's out of hand. It is really out of hand. And again, I'm not sitting here saying this from a from a high horse, pointing fingers, because some of these things I have personally done myself. I have. But, and there was no excuse for it. There's no, it's good, boys will be boys type of attitude for me about it. It's wrong. They say hindsight is 20/20, and looking back on things that I did at a younger age, it was wrong. It was wrong then, and it's wrong now. But I am here to do my part, or try to do as much as I can to atone not only for things that I've done, but to guide, other guys away from some of the things that I've done. Like I have a son, and I don't want my son, coming up thinking women are pieces of shit, can be disrespectful to women, can do whatever he wants, to women. That's not how it works. But if I'm not being the example, what good am I doing him, just telling him don't do this, don't do that, but I'm doing everything I say don't do? And in this particular instance, it's not one of those, do as I say, not as I do type of things. Children watch you. Children absorb everything like a sponge. So we as men have to re-examine ourselves and recalibrate ourselves and what we're doing in order to guide the next generation. And on that Gillette commercial, they said a line that stuck with me. They said, the boys watching today will be the men of tomorrow. And that's true. And, speaking of that commercial, it blows my mind, and it probably shouldn't, but it blows my mind how angry that commercial made people. Like, pissed. A lot of people talking about boycotting Gillette. And I'm looking at this like, why? How? You motherfuckers, you people are part of the problem. This commercial is addressing toxic masculinity. It's addressing sexism. It's addressing, the boys will be boys, the boys club type of mantra. It's addressing bullying. All of those things are one of the many spokes in this wheel of rape culture. And they are a corporation. Their end game has always been and will always be to make money. And I'm not saying that, Gillette, they're super woke, they're woke. Nah, they are a business. But just because you are a business does not mean you can't have a conscience. It doesn't mean that you have to be morally bankrupt just because you're getting that dollar. And people are legit pissed about this commercial. Mind blowing. But then again, when you look at all of the rape numbers, the statistics, it probably shouldn't surprise people at all. At all. Like, I can give you a bunch of stats, of things that I looked up, and it would just blow some people's mind if they're not familiar with it. Like, I ran across one stat that was saying that every 98 seconds an American is sexually assaulted. Another one said 1 in 15 children are exposed to intimate partner violence each year. And it says 90% of these are eyewitnesses. I ran across one that says 1 out of 6 American women has been the victim of attempted or completed rape in her lifetime. 14.8% completed, 2.8% attempted. I've seen studies about how college-age women are at risk. 18 to 24-year-old college women are 3 times as likely to get sexually assaulted. Women not in college, 18 to 24 years old, are 4 times as likely. And you know, I said this last week on the episode with Jarius from the Unapologetic Geek, when we was talking about R. You know, I said there's some R. Kellys and some R. Shelleys out there, and that's real. I ran across a story today. A 16-year-old boy was having sex with his 24-year-old teacher. I mean, it seems like every week we are seeing students having sex with teachers. I'll give you another stat that I ran across. Talking about men. Male college students at risk. Males ages 18 to 24 who are college students are approximately 5 times more likely than non-students of the same age to be a victim of rape or sexual assault. I mean, it goes both ways. It goes in, I mean, you can find detail to where it goes in about race, sex. I saw another stat, the lifetime rate of rape or attempted rape for women by race. 34% were American Indian, 24% mixed race, 19% black, 18% white, 7% Asian Pacific Islander. Like, if you go in and start looking at all these different numbers, the shit can be overwhelming and just mind-blowing. You talked about, you know, children. And this is the most disheartening for me about children. It says that among all of the cases of child sexual abuse reported to the police, 93% of the perpetrators are known by the victims, with only 7% of the perpetrators being strangers. Let that shit sink in. Like, way I look at it, if somebody will do that to someone that they quote unquote love, you know, they would do it to anybody. 34% are family members. 59% are acquaintances. It's crazy. It is just crazy. But, you know, this is something that we can't just solve overnight. This isn't something that I could just talk about on a one-off podcast and just be done with it. This is something that I talk about and have to live and be about. And I really hope that those of you who hear this feel the same way. Not just talk about it, you know, be about it. If you see something, say something. That's the only way. That is the only way. Joining me now on the podcast is someone who is a very, very fantastic writer I've been following for a couple months now. She's written for different publications, and she has a very, very, very sharp mind, a very sharp pen. And this is somebody whose opinion I really have grown to know and trust. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Miss Angela Dennis to the podcast. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you.
I am doing fine. So,
That's good.
so this podcast, this episode is basically I'm talking about, the rape culture that we're living in. These last couple of weeks, I've talked about R. Kelly, Harvey Weinstein, so on and so forth. And I
Right.
felt like, instead of talking about a singular person, talk about the culture itself. So I saw one of your articles, actually a couple articles that you wrote, and I really felt that you would have, you would share a great insight on this subject. So, my first question I wanted to ask you, or just kick off the conversation, to ask you concerning the rape culture. What is your opinion on the rape culture in our nation, as far as whether you want to talk about black neighborhoods, the black community, or just overall? But what is your take on the rape culture in America?
Honestly, I really think that rape culture, just in general, especially lately with the Me Too movement and all of that coming full circle, it's for me. I'm passionate about it because I believe, especially in the black community, rape culture is it's kind of something that we haven't really. It's kind of we're almost silent about rape culture in our community. But I think now, as there's more stories, more accusations coming out, especially towards, black men, I think now that it's kind of prompting us to kind of have more of a discussion. And as a woman, I do stand for victims. I try to take an objective stance because at the same time, I see, as we are getting, like, for instance, the R. Kelly situation, and once the documentary came out, it's just kind of been concerning for me because I'm seeing it kind of going off in another direction. And that's kind of what prompted me to write my latest article.
Right. And speaking of him, and something going into another direction.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have been hard on R. Kelly for years, and
Right.
It has increased even more so lately. But I saw something today that made me actually just sit back and look at it like damn, this is kind of ridiculous. But I saw
I think I might know what you're talking about too.
I think it might have been in Philadelphia.
Yes, I posted that too.
Okay. Yeah. So I saw that, they're trying to ban, R. Kelly, and that's fine. Right. I have no problem with that. But I mean, if you just can't pick one person and make him the face of
exactly.
You ban. If you're going to ban him, I want Harvey banned. I want, the Brock Turners of the world. I mean, everybody.
Right. And to be honest, that's kind of how I felt. But at the same time, it's like, okay, so if you're going to ban R. Kelly all of a sudden, what happened prior to R. Kelly? Why was now there's, numerous, I'm sure, predators in the city of Philadelphia, but now we're using R. Kelly kind of as the poster boy to take a stand. And that's kind of what I have a problem with. So yeah, that article that came out was a little concerning for me.
Right. And, it's in the climate that we live in, it's kind of hard for me to not think that it was racially motivated in, because, like I said, you have so many examples of non-black men who are just as vile and just as guilty as he is, that can go to Philadelphia right now.
Exactly.
But, I feel like we, and when I say we, I'm talking about black men, like we become the fall guy for so much. It's been like that for years, from Tulsa Ride to Rosewood, all, it falls on the black guy did it.
Exactly.
And that's the feel that I got from that article.
Yes, that's exactly how I felt about it. And then also after the R. Kelly documentary aired, I don't know if you saw this, that they're airing another documentary about Michael Jackson at the Sundance Film Festival. That's going to be similar, where it's going to be, supposed victims, which supposedly these are the same boys who, admitted, I guess, later to fabricating the accusations. But I just kind of was like, what would be the purpose to release something like this at the Sundance Film Festival about Michael Jackson when he's passed away at this point? So I just felt, when I saw that, and then of course the story today, it's just concerning for me, because I feel like it's going in another direction now, rather than just focusing on, the specific situation at hand. Or, we're talking about R. Kelly, but now it's going in another direction. So we're talking about people who have either been found innocent, or it's just so much for me. That's kind of why I was like, I just need to write about this.
So speaking of writing, you have a fantastic article. And by the way, folks, you can find this article on blackwindowchaser.com, on our website, as well as on our Facebook page. But in this article, you talked about, some of the same things as far as black men, and how we have to be careful with these accusations,
Right.
and how it affects, us as black men, So if you will, just talk a little bit about your article and what prompted you to write it, and some of the talking points that you think people really should hear to understand.
Okay. Well, what prompted me to write the article, honestly, was the story a couple of days ago that had came out about Chris Brown in the news, and the alleged rape incident that happened in Paris. But as I was thinking about that, I was thinking about of course, the R. Kelly documentary, and then after that, me hearing about a documentary about Michael Jackson and his accusers being released, at the Sundance Film Festival. So with all of that, and then Chris Brown coming out, that's kind of what prompted me to write it. But I'll admit, when the story came out about Chris, I'm not a Chris Brown huge fan. I wouldn't consider myself a supporter of his. I'm not a hardcore defender of his, because I do feel he's in the news pretty regularly for something, whether, he's guilty or not. But it always just seems like he's in the news. So, but when the story came out about him supposedly raping this woman in Paris, something just didn't sit right with me about it. Like, regardless of his past, I saw a lot of people online, basically calling him a rapist. So for me, I wanted to kind of just wait a little bit before I, publicly started giving my opinions, or accusing
Right.
him of guilt, basically. And then it was like, sure enough, I believe it was the same day, maybe the next day, that I guess they released him on all charges, and released him from custody. And then I saw an article in the news after that he was planning, I guess, to sue the girl for, I don't know, slander, or I guess
Yeah,
falsely
he's suing
accusing
for
him.
damages. Yeah.
Right. So with that being said, I'm just glad that I waited before I kind of formed an opinion, especially, going online publicly, calling him a rapist. For me, I don't, as a woman, I like I told you, I do support victims. I'm a woman, of course, and I believe it's very important that we talk about the rape culture. I do believe that it's causing a lot of damage, especially within the Black community, but I also am fair. So I want to be sure that before I go to call someone guilty, or, label a person as a rapist, that I at least sort of give them the benefit of the doubt. And I know everyone does not agree with that. Some of the feedback was, because of his past, well, he's a rapist, and I just can't do that. So that's kind of what prompted me to write my article, and just kind of discuss my opinion on that.
Right. Like, speaking of, some of the comments, and like I saw a few that were in the mode of, well, if he can beat a woman, he can rape a woman.
Right.
And like I think that is, for lack of a better word, bullshit.
Right.
How someone can equate the two is, beyond me. I mean, I know people who fought, women, and women who fought men, and that was it. It didn't lead to anything further than that.
Right.
And my thing is, I've seen cases where guys rape women who hadn't had any type of physical or verbal altercation with the woman before in their life. So
exactly,
there's no formula that you can just look up and say, oh, he's a rapist because he did this.
Right. And I don't agree with that either. And that's kind of why I was like, I'm going to wait before, just to get the details. I think that like we're so quick, especially amongst ourselves, is what makes it worse. Like among Black people, we're so quick to label, like even with Chris Brown, I get that a lot of people don't support him because of, the situation that happened in the past with Rihanna, but that's just so far gone at this point. Not saying, that he's an angel, but rape to me is a very serious crime, and it's a serious accusation, and I definitely don't believe that because he committed domestic violence in the past that he would rape someone,
Right.
And to me, and I kind of was talking to someone about this yesterday, so for me, if you're going to use someone's past against them to basically call them guilty for a separate incident or separate crime, in my opinion, it's no different than when we look on the news and a law enforcement officer has shot one of our men.
Right.
And then the next day you see a mugshot, or you see his criminal record, you see his past used as a way to justify his murder.
Exactly.
To me, that's no different than what I'm seeing people doing with the Chris Brown situation, because we're basically using someone's past to, in a completely separate incident, to label them as guilty, or in law enforcement when they shoot someone, basically to justify why they killed someone. And I think that's, like you said, bullshit.
Right. And, like for me, especially with, rape and things like that, I like to hold off, judgment as well. And one of the main reasons, I feel this way is kind of like you said about how, Black men are treated, as far as, how they dehumanize us in the media and things of that nature when we're the victims,
Right.
And also you add to that, there have been so many Black men who were freed from prison after serving 20, 30, 40 years, through California Innocence Project, and, the various ones that do that.
Well, it was like the Central Park 5 was a good example.
Yeah, Central Park 5. And one of the most recent ones that I kept up with was a kid from California, Brian Banks.
Mm-hmm.
He was wrongfully accused, and he served 5 years, and it was a big mess with him. But
there was a local incident here. I live in Knoxville, Tennessee, kind of a small town, I guess. But of course, the University of Tennessee is here, and we had an athlete, a football player that was here, and he was an excellent athlete. I mean, he could have went to any team he wanted in the NFL. He would have been a first-round draft pick. And in his senior season, he was accused of rape by 2 girls that went to school here. And his senior year, being accused, not only was he stripped of being able to play, it basically all his chances of being drafted into an NFL, he had to let that go. Basically everything was taken from him. So he went about 2 or 3 years before they had the trial just last year. And sure enough, with all the evidence, they were able to prove that the girls lied about it. Whole story was fabricated, and he went to trial and was found innocent. So you see his whole basically future was taken from him, all because of false accusation. So it's damaging. It can ruin especially Black men's lives. I mean, luckily he was able to kind of bounce back a little from that, but I mean, it's dangerous.
Right. Very dangerous. And, people listening, we're not by any means saying that, it doesn't happen.
Right.
That goes without saying. It's rape happens, sexual assault happens, but the point is, we have to be more understanding and be less. We have to hold off on judgment and just don't jump to conclusions just because they said it happened. Because
Right.
We've seen so many cases where just because they said it doesn't make it so.
Exactly. I think it's kind of like a slippery slope too. It's like, because there's so many stories out here, especially Black women, whenever they, are the victims, a lot of times we are not taken seriously. I would say more so than any other group of people. So it is a slippery slope. And I understand why people, especially women, they are so passionate about it. And I even understand why some of them felt some type of way about my article. I do think that a lot of them jumped to conclusions either without reading it or maybe seeing the photo of Chris Brown before really, thinking about it or taking the time to read my words. I think that was part of some of the feedback that, the select few had a problem with, but.
Oh, well, it was obvious. A lot of them didn't read it. Like,
right.
I saw some comments like, why are you attacking Chris Brown?
Right. Or just blatantly saying, well, I'm not even going to read this shit.
Yeah. So I completely, understand that.
I do believe if you read the whole article in its entirety, that I was pretty clear that, I state I'm not an R. Kelly supporter. I was quick. I also wrote an article about him. I don't know if you remember the one where I was stating that defending R. Kelly is anti-pro-Black. I wrote about that. I also stated in the article I'm not a Chris Brown supporter. I'm not even that big of a fan. I mean, I like his music, but I've never been somebody that's all crazy about Chris Brown, and he does have that fan base, but I'm not one of them, and I wanted to make that clear. It really wasn't about Chris Brown. I just used him because that situation that happened a couple days ago is what prompted me to write the article, and I think some people missed that part. But
right,
yeah.
That's I always say the best thing that two people can have is an understanding.
Right.
And I saw a lot of people, not just on your article, but just the various things that we post and, things that we put out that just refuse to take the time to, read it or digest it and dissect it to have an understanding. It's just, this is what I think. I don't care what you say. My mind made up. So
exactly.
The hell with you.
And I think with a lot of these stories that are, related to rape culture, a lot of what I see is it's like men against women. You've got, I guess you could say, a lot of feminist women who label themselves as feminists. I think a lot of them have an issue with, when we write articles like this, they kind of feel like either it's not defending victims or we're giving too much leeway. But it's kind of sometimes hard to communicate with people who take that strong of a stance on it because they're so almost closed-minded. They don't even want to listen to, especially a male's perspective, is what I've seen. And I think that that's damaging for us, mainly as Black people. I think as Black men and women, we should be able to have these conversations, in the company of one another.
Right. I agree. And that's like one of the reasons why myself and CJ and Tyson, we were all talking about like having a Black with No Chaser round table where we can all have this conversation, not only amongst ourselves, but stream it to where we can interact with the people who are watching, and
right,
we can field questions or see what they're feeling, and we can address what they're saying, because like you said, we have to be able to have these honest, unbiased conversations about the things that are going on in order for us to rectify the problem, because there is a problem. And, ignoring it, burying our heads in the sand won't fix this problem.
Right. And I think what also gets lost in translation of everything is a lot of the women who are, don't really want to hear any other opinions, especially from a male's perspective, is a lot of them don't realize that there are a lot of men who actually support them. They support the Me Too movement. They support Black women, but all that gets lost when you're not even willing to, listen to someone else's dialogue.
Right. Exactly. So, with all this said, everything we talked about, the one thing that I wanted to ask you before we, get out of here is, what do you feel like, I know we talked about conversations, but what is one thing that you feel like we as a whole should do or could do to eradicate some of these problems within this rape culture?
I think that we need more outlets to get together and have these discussions among one another. As far as the rape culture and everything that's going on in general, I do believe that we do need to listen to victims' stories. I think it was, I'm speaking of it being dangerous to be quick to label Black men, but I also think it's dangerous, especially like with the R. Kelly situation. There were a lot of defenders of R. Kelly, and I think that that's just as damaging. So I believe we just have to kind of be fair on all fronts. We do have to remember at the end of the day that, especially with Black women, we are probably the least inclined to be taken seriously when we are the victim. And I think that that's definitely a conversation to have, and something that's a serious issue just as much as, Black men being falsely accused. So I kind of just feel like we need to find some type of balance or way to talk about both issues.
I totally agree.
And I think Black men also need to understand and remember, like me, I support Black men. I believe, like my article stated, we need to give leeway for Black men to be innocent, or at least give the benefit of label them as guilty. But I think that Black men also need to understand just how much this happens to Black women all the time, whether it be and young men,
right?
Not just women. I think sometimes we even forget that because supposedly R. Kelly, he was a victim himself as a child. So I think we need to just have a discussion with rape culture in general in the Black community, because I think it's something that we just don't talk about until one of these accusations come out, especially against someone that we have come to love as a celebrity or an artist. And I don't think that we should have to wait until that happens to have these discussions, because it's happening every day to us.
Yeah, you are absolutely right about that. Like you said, it's something we don't talk about, and it's rape and sexual assault is like right up there in the stigmatized in the Black community, like mental illness, and like we talked about that back on a previous podcast, the stigmas associated with mental illness and things of that nature. And it's the same with rape culture. It's the same with, families have that uncle or aunt or whomever that everybody doesn't trust their kids around, but nobody does anything about it.
Exactly.
So,
and then that leads to a cycle,
right?
A generational cycle.
Absolutely. That you're right. That's all of that falls under the same umbrella and something we all have to address completely. Just, open the closet door and air all this shit out and just,
Right.
But I appreciate you, stopping by, talking with us. I appreciate the articles that you write.
I appreciate it. I'm glad to be able to discuss this. Actually, it's something that I've been wanting to talk about myself, but it's been difficult to kind of start the conversation, like I said, because of some of the feedback that we got, and it's hard to have these conversations, especially online and on posts that we make. So,
but anytime you want to, come through and air out your grievances, or or just tell it, everybody, hey, this is what I wrote, kiss my ass. You can do that. We have a spot here.
Okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Angela Dennis, and as always, I appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's one you all can sing with us. When the Saints go marching in.
This week in sports starts us off in the NFL with the NFC Championship game and the New Orleans Saints marching right on into the offseason a lot faster than what they thought they would be. Now, this game is less about who won, the Rams, than it is more so about how they won. And that has the Saints fans angry as hell. I'm talking about they angrier than Florida Evans was when she slammed that bowl down after James's funeral. Nah, man, they angrier than Debo was when Red had the gall to ask for his bike back. Man, they angrier than Vera was when Quick accused her of stealing. God damn. Now look, I ain't gonna lie. The Saints got a legitimate gripe, a legitimate argument. But listen, missed calls happen game after game. As a matter of fact, a lot of missed calls happen in this particular game. Now, the Saints want to harp on that missed pass interference, but when you ask them about those missed face mask calls against the Rams, well, all I get is,
oh, that was different.
Look, y'all got to let it go, man. The game is over with. It's over. Get ready for next year. The stuff y'all doing right now officially make y'all the worst fan base than the damn Dallas Cowboys, and they are terrible. Look, y'all got petitions going, trying to get the game replayed. Y'all talking about having Roger Goodell speak before Congress. Man, we got people out of work that need money because they furloughed, and y'all talking about a damn game, which y'all blew, by the way, because Sean Payton tried to get cute and threw the ball instead of running it. Plus, y'all QB that y'all like to call the GOAT threw a back-breaking interception within the first minute of overtime. If you want to be mad at somebody, be mad at him, because he was ridiculous. Over in the AFC, the Kansas City Chiefs lost in overtime to the New England Patriots due to the fact that the refs, as usual, made some bogus, phony calls to help Tom Brady win yet another game. Man, listen, I hate the Patriots. Hate them. And I wish nothing but bad for them. Matter of fact, fuck them. Go Rams. Over in boxing, 40-year-old Manny Pacquiao took on Adrian Broner in a fight that nobody really cared about until it happened. Now, this was a damn joke, a laugher. Manny beat this man from start to finish, from pillar to post. Now, with that being said, this fight did have some remarkable and amazing moments. One thing that was very remarkable to me was the fact that this fight sold 400,000 units on pay-per-view at $74.99 a piece. Damn. Now, what else was amazing to me was the fact that Broner showed up to the ring in his finest, flyest, fashion-over fuck shit that money could buy. Now, the saying goes, styles make fights in boxing, and that's usually the case, but not for this fight. What made this fight was the post-fight interviews, where Broner had this to say.
I beat him. Everybody out there know I beat him. Let me talk something. Let me let y'all know. I want to thank the whole hood who came out here. I love y'all. I did this for the hood. Y'all know I beat that boy. Y'all know I beat that boy.
After hearing this, the whole hood as a collective did our best Big Draco impersonation when we all yelled at the same time, "You won!" Now, what made this post-fight interview so funny was the fact that he had this to say leading up to the fight.
Y'all got me fucked up if y'all think I'm about to lose to Manny Pacquiao, man. I'm about to beat his motherfucking ass on God now. And I don't know who NM is, man.
Now, I'm pretty sure by the 8th round, God was looking over at Jesus, St. Paul, and St. Mark and asking them, who mans is this? And I can pretty much guarantee they looked at him like, man, we don't know this dude. Adrian, listen, man. I ain't mad at you, bro. You got your money. You fought on the big stage. You lost. It didn't work out. It is what it is. But it seems like after your last few fights, boxing just ain't for you no more, dog. It might be time to find something else, man. I don't know. But what I do know is me and the hood as a collective want you to stop speaking for all of us in your post-fight interviews, because the results of your fights and the lie detector test both prove that that was a lie. This episode was brought to you by Zatarain's Creole Seasoning New Orleans Saints Mix. Now, you can't use a bunch of it because right now that shit is extra salty. Laissez-les bon temps rouler. And I'll see you guys next week. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gather around for this week's episode of Colonizer Nonsense. My first colonizer nonsense moment starts me off in the state of Florida. And, man, hold on. Look, instead of worrying about the border states and building the wall in Texas and Arizona and all of that, maybe, just maybe, we should get a wall and build that son of a bitch around the state of Florida. Because I swear, Florida has caused the United States of America more headaches than any single Mexican that has crossed that border illegally. I'm just saying. Headline: Florida Secretary of State resigns after newspaper obtains photos of him in blackface. Damn. So, newly minted Florida Secretary of State Michael Ertel, he resigned from his post on Thursday after the newspaper obtained photos of him posing as a Hurricane Katrina victim in blackface. God damn. So, the newspaper, the Tallahassee Democrat, got photos and they shared it with the governor's office on Thursday, according to the paper. Now, this dude had on a purple shirt that said Katrina victim. He had on blackface and red lipstick. He was also wearing earrings and a New Orleans Saints bandana. Now, according to the paper, it was taken at a private Halloween party 2 months after Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans back in 2005. Goddamn Florida, this who you elected, but y'all got a problem with goddamn Andrew Gillum. Y'all stay fucking up. My next colonizer nonsense moment takes me to Provo, Utah, where a man has taken the phrase "I'm sick of being lonely" to a whole new goddamn level. Headline: 27-year-old man citing virginity and constant rejections threatened to kill as many girls as I see. Wow. Boy, if that ain't toxic masculinity as well as rape culture all rolled up in one, I don't know what it is. So, the police arrested this man from Colorado over the weekend, and he told them he planned on targeting women in a public shooting because of his dire situation. Damn. Now, on Saturday, they detained him and questioned him in connection with various threats that were made online, including one in which he allegedly said he was going to shoot up a public place real soon. Now, he wrote in a Facebook post, and I quote, "All I wanted was to be loved, yet no one cares about me. I'm 27 years old, and I've never had a girlfriend before, and I'm still a virgin. This is why I'm planning on shooting up a public place soon and being the next mass shooter. I'm ready to die, and all the girls that turn me down is going to make it right by killing as many girls as I see," unquote. Now, He talked about he never had a girlfriend and he was a virgin. Well, I tell you what, bro. Where you going, you still won't have a girlfriend, but I guarantee you gonna lose your virginity, whether you want to or not. My final colonizer nonsense moment takes me to parts unknown, but it was so damn good, I just had to share. Headline: Kid puts his stepdad to sleep after he called his friend a nigga. Before I tell you about it, just let me preface this by saying, y'all gonna get enough of saying that word. I don't give a fuck if it's with an A or a hard R. You might want to leave it alone. Even white people are getting tired of white people shit. So, in this video, this guy was talking to his stepson, and he told him, and I quote, "You out here screwing around, so and so on and so forth, hanging with your little nigga friend." Now, before he could get the D and friend out, his stepson was putting them bees on his ass. I mean, he gave him an 8-piece spicy with 2 large sides, 6 biscuits, a gallon of tea, and a slice of pie before he could react. And I tell you what, he knocked him all the way to the car, beat him off the car, and left his ass laying on the side of the car. Knocked smooth out. Debo couldn't have done it better himself. I'm telling y'all, leave that word alone. It wasn't for you, it ain't for you, and you need to just walk away from it. Trust me. Now, before I tiptoe on up out of here, I just want to take this moment to say thank you to each and every one of you who have liked, listened to, subscribed, downloaded, shared my podcast. I've seen a recent uptick these last few weeks, and I know it is only because of you guys who are supporting what we're doing here, and I really, really, truly appreciate it. Now, I want to also give a big special thank you to Miss Angela Dennis for stopping by and blessing us with her words, her thoughts, her gifts of writing, and sharing with us, her thoughts on this, what I've called an epidemic, this rape culture that we're living in that seems to be getting worse by the day. So shout out to her for lending us her voice from a female perspective, because that is who is really getting drugged through the mud through this are females. Yes, it does happen to men, but females, more specifically black females, are the ones that's catching the brunt of this beast. So fellas, we have to step up. We have to nurture our women, protect our women, teach our sons to be better men than what we're dealing with right now. Matter of fact, teach other men, help them to be better than what they're doing if they're participating in this bullshit and perpetuating all of these stereotypes and all of these nonsense actions that is contributing to this rape culture. I also want to give a shout out to my boy Jarius Thomas, the Unapologetic Geek, dropping hot shit over on his page. And again, we are putting out the Break podcast, where we will be giving artists, rappers, singers their moment to shine. It's all about your music, your life, and we using our platform to help you blow up your platform. So anybody who's into the music, looking for an outlet, hit us up. You can email us your submission at the Break Podcast JXN@gmail.com. The Break Podcast Jackson@gmail.com, and we'll try to make it do what it do. So with that being said, once again, thanks everybody for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Oh, thank you.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.